This morning, privileged to be talking about preparations for the youth elections upcoming, oscillating the basics of civic education, which we continue to see as one of the hindrances of active and full participation of all demographies as far as electoral processes are concerned. Welcome to our Kickstarter. I am Priscilla Regina Naluoga, and as we look into this position of the youth, how do they get to strengthen the electoral democracy in time for 2026 general elections? The backbone of it is that as a country we are scheduled to head into the polls early next year, but recent reports suggest that a shockingly large number of young people are simply not able to participate in these elections. A net notable irony is one of the world's youngest countries. You do have reflections on the previous elections and what has been the engagement and the participation of the youth throughout the entire cycle of electoral processes for us as a country. And therefore, as we're heading into 2026, the question is, could this be a turning point for the demographic of Uganda as far as democracy is concerned? Are the youth willing now more than ever to play a very central role in shaping the future? And of course, as the journey is officially starting off for them come June the 2nd to the 10th, nomination processes for many who are yet to express their interests in representing the youth in the next electoral term. And so we're going to be squeezing the juice out of the young people. To my immediate left, I have Honorable Edson Rugumayo, a Youth MP. Honorable, good morning to you.
Good morning, Priscilla.
How are you?
Good morning, our dear viewers. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I think in one of those last rounds when I'll be attending talk shows discussing youth, because I feel 10 years of serving the young people, I must finally say bye and go and focus on other better things. Okay. So it's a pleasure being here. All
right, we'll come back to actually have a scoop into the 10 years of leadership and how that has actually shaped you as an individual, as a young person, but also the impact of your leadership on the youth. We also do have Shamim Nambassa, a youth politician and activist, a former guild president. Good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning, Priscilla.
And how are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I know that the week started off on a rough note for you as the National Unity Platform while you were launching the campaign, but how have the young people responded?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Dr. Shamim Nambassa of the National Unity Platform and a youth activist as well as that. It has not been a good week for us, considering that we had prepared to have our youth protest vote launch on Monday, which is more like one of our weekly pressers that we have been having. For someone that knows the National Unity Platform, we do have weekly pressers on every Monday, but this particular weekly presser was dedicated to youth elections. And for anyone that knows, we've been promoting what we are calling the protest vote. But then I think it didn't land in the right ears. So when the police came across that, and I'm told to them they thought that we are organizing a demonstration. So it is unfortunate that we still have to deal with having to educate the police what a protest vote means, and then still now have to go ahead and educate the masses. All right,
so we'll ask for that education because it is civic education at the end of the day. And we also do have Honorable Bernard Odoi. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning, Priscilla, and good morning all the viewers.
All right. So, Honorable Edson, it's really nice to call you guys honorables. We're here Morning at NTV. We're always hosting, the senior honorables. So to have young people on the panel this morning, it's very good. That being said, you have talked about the 10 years that you've been given the privilege to lead the, chant for the young people and their voices and their pleas to the government. Talk to us about how the journey started for you and what the 10 years have had, both successes and challenges.
Oh yes, I must say I'm deeply honored to have had the opportunity to serve the young people since 2015. I started my journey when I was in year 1 at university. Then I learned about what we call the National Youth Council and what they do, and I was very interested. And I went back down to the grassroots from the village level, parish, sub-county, then came, and then I had the opportunity to sit at the National Executive Committee, which committee does a very important role of sitting and advising the president on quarterly basis on what should be done. And from there, after my service as a member of the National Executive Committee, the young people felt they had another time to grant me another opportunity, and I was voted as Youth Member of Parliament. And now I am serving my 4th year in the term. And I must say it's been a great honor for me to serve the young people, to make a contribution to this country. There still lie a lot of problems that are still available for other young people, other leaders to emerge and solve. But I, every time, go back home and feel fulfilled because I've had to lay 1 or 2 bricks on the revolution of the young people. We call the youth movement in the country. And I still, of course, ask the young people that are out there to rise up now that we are going into an electoral process, to rise up in big numbers, participate, aggregate their issues clearly, put them forward, advocate around them, and make sure that they make a contribution. We are all here to make a contribution. None of us can entirely solve the problems that Uganda has, but we can only make a contribution.
Okay. You talked about the 1 or 2 bricks that you have been able to lay on creating a better stance for the young people. What are those particular bricks?
Oh yes, starting from 2015, we, of course, the policies and laws
why I'm asking is that we want to register progress at the end of the day, that these youth positions of leadership are actually creating the impact.
Yes, yes. Starting 2015, we had a very big number of young people in this country, especially in the urban areas, who lived day by day without a skill and unable to fend for themselves in any way possible. And through our interactions with the President, we kept on coming to convergency and agreed that there needed to be massive skilling of young people. First, the President agreed, and we had 9 skilling centers around Kampala, which are still existing today and are doing a tremendous job of churning out young people with skills, broad skills. And from there on, we also noted that it was not good for the government to only focus on the youth in the urban areas. There needed to be the same program rolled out in across the entire country, and government listened to us, and they built more 18 zonal training centers. We call them the industrial hubs. So I say that's one brick. Also 2015, during my tour in China, Beijing, I was able to learn a few things. We had by then a YLP program which was running, and China was doing it in a much better way, funding it much better, and there were tangible results. So we started advocating around a possibility of procurement support law in this country. And we were lucky that at the end of last term, there was an amendment to the Procurement Act. And this term of office, we were able to push and have the actual implementation, regulation, operationalizing the reservation schemes and all that, all intended to make sure they put youth into business. Also, in my journey serving the young people, I have been able to see several programs of government supported them, and I've seen them evolve to touch so many lives, change them. I was one of those people that came strong to support the YLP program, which was there then, because I visited the entire country, interviewing the young people and seeing how the money had impacted them. And I'm grateful that such programs were put in place, and they really impacted. And ours was always to support them, educate our young people, mobilize them to benefit. And even when some programs were phased out, for example, we saw the YLP in Uganda and all those programs come up, we are also at the forefront of making sure that the youth are included in more programs that we have. We have had the PDM. I think now you should know that it's by matter of law that at least if 100 million goes to the parish, 30 million should go to the young people. So some of those, some of the bricks we have put in place. There was a time when there was a social media tax. We came out strong and fought against it, and I'm glad that this term of office we have been able to push government to completely raise the aspect of social media tax. So I can say there are so many other things I can clearly hint on that we have been able to talk about convince government, to give government our view as young people, because standing in my position as a young person, and by then and now, I have a different perspective compared to what government and many other stakeholders in there feel things to be.
All right, as I will be coming to you, Bernard, to hear your side of the story. Shamim, sitting in between these two leaders, you're one who has been seeing the impact or the influence of their leadership, whether positive or negative, from the other side. What have you been able to observe, especially in assessment of what Edson has shared here, of the many programs and initiatives that through their regime have been able to start off for the young people?
Thank you so much. First off, I think I'll start by appreciating that, and I have seen that they have tried to do what that they can, and we've seen the industrial parks, we've seen the skilling centers and everything else. But then for me, the issue then becomes the implementation, but then later, what are the youth actually benefiting from these things? For example, if I talk about the industrial parks, I know and I've seen them in Mukono, in Ginger, and in other areas, but then these industrial parks have instead become centers of exploitation. That I have seen so many young people that, yes, are given the opportunity to work in these areas, but if you do have an interaction with them, how much are they actually paid? How much are they taking back home? And you see, some of them will tell you that I actually earn 2,000 shillings in a day. So if a young person is working and they're earning 2,000 shillings in a day, they have to spend transport, they have to move, because I know that you have seen caravans of them walking on roads in Mukono. These are youth that are working in these
their wages passed upon them simply because they
are young people. I want to believe that maybe because they do not have experience.
Particular guidance.
Yes, please.
There is a very big difference between the industrial skilling hubs that I'm talking about and then the industrial parks.
Now, I'm speaking about the parks. I've left the skilling centers because I know skilling centers, they are not paid. And that is for a fact. I've seen them going to work and they're not paid for that. But in these factories where these young people are being employed, I don't know if they're actually employed or exploited from, they're not getting paid for what they are offering. If someone is working and they're earning 2,000, you see them walk, long distances, and then for me that then becomes exploitation. So you do have the good intentions to offer this, but then the people that you're offering it are actually not getting what they deserve. So for me, I would expect that it would be the right time to have these young MPs come out and speak about issues to do with minimum wage policies, which I haven't seen them raise. And much as it may not be only in these industrial parks, throughout the entire country, young people are being exploited, and I would actually want to see our honorable members of parliament raise issues around that. And even then, we still have high levels of unemployment, much as you have had these industrial parks, you've had the skilling, people are being skilled, but they're sitting home because at the end of the day, they're not going to use those skills because they do not have the startup capital and they're actually not employed by anyone. So while I do appreciate the little that you have done, I still feel that it is not enough for the 5 years that you have been in office or 10 years that you have actually served the young people.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. I wanted to pick up from our good friend here, Shamim, on the issue of our youth who are employed in the industrial parks earning 2,000. Respectfully, there's no closeness to that being fact. It's not true. I have personally gone to most of these industrial parks. I can give you an example in Mbale Industrial Park. Currently they employ over 9,000 Ugandans. The majority are actually young people drawn from across the country. Now, before I went there, that was the rumor I also had. And I picked interest, Mbale being my area of representation. So I went there and then moved with the leadership of that place. And then what I confirmed, one is that they do piece rate. You are paid actually as per what you have done. So the discrepancy, but the minimum someone earns there in Mbale Industrial Park, that I saw was 7,000. But also I saw people earning up to 17,000.
7,000 per what?
Per session. Like I said, piece rate, we are 4 of us here. If we are given assignment to do I do cleaning services. If we are asked to clean this room, and there are 4 rooms, or 10 rooms, and they said per room you are going to be given 2,000 shillings, then it depends on how many rooms I work. These guys produce clothing and so many other materials. Now, if you are hardworking, you realize you actually earn more. But those who are lazy earn actually less. But also for me, the discussion here should be, are we looking at quantity or quality first? We are looking at absorption of people in employment. Now, if 9,000 are employed in one industrial park, and they are earning, even if it's 9,000 per day, and they also have a meal, these are our people. What else would they be doing? For me, we should first solve the issue of quantity, then we progress to quality. That conversation can come later.
The other day I was driving around Kampala, the Chisenyi side, and what you're talking about hit me hard, of what is the quality of our employment. What is the quality of the employment that we are churning out to young people? Because when you sit here and say that the fittest will take it all, then I think you are actually creating the discrepancy that we don't want to see all over our youth as far as employment is concerned. When you sit here and you say that to whom is strongest, they will earn the biggest chunk, then him who is weak is going to be earning less, then that is a wrong judgment for which you're employing the young person.
In this skill-based training, let me give an example of fine spinners here in Bugolobi. 90% of their workers are actually tailors. Now, if we have all been trained to do tailoring works, the material is sufficient. Why would I be paid for 10 pieces that I'm able to make in a day, the same amount with Shamim, who is able to make 20 pieces? Same material, same machinery, same workplace, same everything. For the piece rate, I would simply agree that we go that way.
So is it that then right of Shamim to say that with those realizations that you've seen on ground, we still have to have the conversation around minimum wage bill?
And for me, that
even the one who is considered weak is
still
getting
has the bare minimum that they're actually getting.
Priscilla, let me come in. I want to keep it at policy level. Of course, piece rate is a global practice done all over many countries. I want to just look at what my sister Shamim is advancing, the policy advance of minimum wage bill. I think Ugandans need to pay attention to the South African case. Some of these policies we advance passionately, we think they are the best, but they turn around to bait citizens. If you see the case of South Africa, I think it now currently has an unemployment rate surpassing a little Uganda's level of unemployment. Why? Because of the minimum wage bill that they set and the employment laws that they put in place. So usually some of these laws, if not studied well, Uganda now is fighting so hard to make sure they attract FDI, foreign direct investment. And therefore it should be a very sensitive matter for any movement, political movement, to advance minimum wage bill. Why? Because some of those are the things that attract investors. So the NRM thinking, just a minute, the NRM thinking is enshrined in one principle, that we have the quantitative transfer into quality. That first make many things available and then improve the quality. Now, if you rush for the quality before you build the quantity, you are doomed, because you will not have the quantity. You will have very little quality and very less in quantity. So that way, the government, of course, and many stakeholders I've shared with, understand that many countries protect their workers. Workers should be paid well, and yet in this country, number one, we don't have the jobs. First of all, we don't have the jobs, so we must create the jobs first. Before we talk of how much the jobs pay, we must create the jobs. And how do you create the jobs? is make sure that there are those bringing in money into the country. And why should they bring money into the country? They should bring money into the country when they are sure that there is a labor force.
When they're sure that they're going to exploit our young people.
And after you've created the job.
Because for me, after all, we are too many, so we are available to be exploited.
Policies are a matter of strategy.
Yes, I do understand that.
Right.
But for me, I don't think that the country should put the young people at such a, at the disadvantage just because we want to attract foreign investors.
So this is a matter of
attract the foreign investors when they know that this is what we're actually offering.
Let me help all of you. Let me bring this picture a little bit closer. Let's take the case of coffee. At some point X in time, the government advocated for everyone to get into the coffee business. Plant coffee, plant coffee, plant coffee. And the entire country from west to east, north to south, central, they are humongous coffee farms. However, guess what the president's challenge is today? We have so many coffee farmers. We have so much coffee on the market, so much that a one pinetti is willing to come and dictate that, give me all your raw material, and then I process it and sell it at a good price on the international market. And imagine if we had actually put up processing plants at the time of advocating for coffee, we would be very competitive on the world market, that we wouldn't have to deal with pinettis.
And
Priscilla, let me give you this example. The economists have a debate on demand-based supply, and then also supply that is based on demand. That is supply based on demand. And then there is also demand that is made available because of supply. So those are all theories of economics. One thing you should be crediting the president for is stamping his feet and saying, yes, I appreciate that the country has listened to my campaign, and now there is coffee all over the country. And now I do not want any more coffee beans exported. Now we should go to a step of making sure we are processing and adding value.
I guess the argument here is, imagine how much we have lost as a country in terms of being competitive on the world market, all in the name of what you are saying, when we have the opportunity to actually flip the case for our own selves. Yes, we do respect that there are international regulations, there are international commitments that we must abide by, but at the same time, it goes back to the fact that at what point shall we have the youth being given the opportunities that are actually of good quality when they're youth, not that they have to work for 10 years and then when they're no longer youth,
we start to think about how to add this sensibly. And you see, Priscilla, that is the same thing we've been talking about. Just like even the labor exploitation. We have so many young people that are being taken to the UAE, but they're educated with, there's engineers, they have earned the skills, they have done everything, but because we did not prepare for them, we are now exporting them to go and work as maids. We're exporting them to go and work as security officers. But I do believe that if by the time we educated these young people to be skilled, workers, we would have labor exploitation, labor exploitation policy, that even when we send our people to Dubai, even when we send them, we still have control over them and what they're actually going to do. But you waited until they were now educated and you had nothing to do with them.
We close,
so now they're going
I
to
want to comment on these things briefly. The coffee conversation, there is no way government would promote the growing of coffee at that same time come up with factories.
What do you mean there is no way? What do you mean there is no way?
Coffee takes...
Coffee takes 10 years.
Okay, Shamim, let him.
Your mother plants coffee.
Yes.
I mean, there's varieties that we're talking about here. So it's not about varieties.
My point here is that the government had to be very certain of the productivity, then set up the processing plant. It's a good conversation that even when you do the value addition locally here, you're absorbing the young people in the value chain, in the employment. And we are all rooting for that. The issue of taking our labor to UAE, labor export. Allow me to comment on this. Most of our people, I was part of the members of parliament who actually went to UAE to find out what actually happens. That was in our second year, because it was a huge concern for us as representative of the youth. Our people are suffering. Now, surprisingly, what we found out there was that the bulk of the people who are actually facing issues used panya route. They went there on temporary visa. Temporary visa. Now, I get temporary visa as a visitor to go there, which is like 6 months. I reach there, then I start looking for the job. The bulk of our people who follow the government guideline set at the means of gender are actually in meaningful engagement. But also, I want us to bring out successful stories. Currently, the gentleman heading the finance of the leading telecom company in the UAE is actually Ugandan. He's a Ugandan. So whereas we have our people, isolated people who did not follow the due process.
We have isolated people who are successful and the majority are not.
No, really.
It is the other way around. The majority
is not going to end right here. It's continued engagement and understanding. But it can't end. So let's move to elections. Let's move to elections. Bernard, I would like to know, you have been a leader for the young people. What are some of the challenges? Of course, now we see labor absorption being one of those challenges. What are some of the other consistent challenges that we are seeing young people being faced with today?
A lot of it, thank you, Priscilla. I started my leadership from down here in Namuongo, in the ghettos there. And my leadership came from what I was doing in that society. Born in Mulanda, came here to survive after senior foreign office, and you want to survive in the city. So we started waste management here. That was when I actually learned of the NYC that my brother Edson has talked about. I left my village without knowing the issue of NYC, National Youth Council. And this speaks to the core of our population. Most of them actually don't know about these positions. Now, for me, because I was closer here, I came to know about this. Then I went into youth leadership. First in the party, was part of the youth leadership in Kampala here at NRM. Then later went for National Youth Council until I grew to becoming the LC1 chairman in one of our slums here in Namuongo. Now for me, the issues affecting our people, one is the information gap. Most of our people, even when they know that there's this available, they don't choose to go for it. But also it is true that the Electoral Commission has a role to play to sensitize the public. And how do you sensitize? Using different formats. We have over 50 languages in this country. So which language are you using where is also a big issue. Can we have a season where Electoral Commission goes across the country using, we have registrations over maybe 300 in this country, so that our people are informed in the language best understood by them. Then, of course, the whole electoral process starts with NIRA, registration of persons. If you are not registered, you can't participate as a voter, you can't participate as a candidate. So the issue surrounding NIRA should expedite the entire exercise to ensure that all the young people, especially the first-time voters, the people who have just turned 18, those who are going to turn 18, their information must be captured. Right now, EC is doing display. The young people should go to their respective areas of jurisdiction or voting to confirm whether or not they are names. So
that's Edson and Bernard, you have mentioned that you yourselves, it was very difficult for you to get a hold of the information at the time. Later on, the civic education to then empower you to engage in leadership positions at youth status. And so this continues to be a recurring problem. Why? I'll start with you, Edson.
One is you see, in our time, there used to, of course, it's still existent, but we used to commonly call it a white elephant, the National Youth Council. It was an entity created by a very good law, futuristic in nature, inclusive, considerate of all the young people in the country, but then the entity was there, not funded. And therefore its presence in the public was not felt. But that cannot be the same case now, because ever since we came into Parliament, now the entity has been funded with a budget of over 4 billion every year. So I expect that the work that the NYC has been doing, and I've been seeing them on NTV and the other bodies, and they are petitioning on behalf of the young people. I think the young people who are keen and are somewhere should be able to get the information from there. But also, we must accept that generally, we have a challenge as a young population. Usually, we run to information that is plain and available and quick, and we do not take a very keen interest in what would take processes. For example, as we speak now, the NRM party opened nominations of structures at village level, and the processes are going on, and it is being done at the polling stations, it is being done, and the NRM has written letters, has publicized it, and has addressed us. Clearly, you see the information is made available, but who picks interest?
So the information is made available, but it's not being designed to attract the young person, Bernard. And I come from the school of thought of, if it's a family setting, the way an older child is treated differently, or is told to do something differently from the baby in the family. And so why are we not having that same addressed as far as dispensing information is concerned, that the young people respond to information differently, they pick up the information differently?
Priscilla, in multi-party dispensation, different political parties have a role to play. Like my colleague Edson has indicated, NRM went out to their members and communicated that the Electoral Commission is organizing this. Prepare and go for this, because this is the roadmap. Now, under this multi-party dispensation, it is expected that all other registered parties pick interest and then design ways how to reach to their people. And this explains why most of the youth MPs are NRM. It is because of the design of the party to reach out to the members. Now, other parties may choose to concentrate on whatever fits them. NRM then concentrates on also what fits them. It's an electoral process. What do? We have the numbers already, the records are there, 19-point-something million members. How do we get to them? Design information, pick from Electoral Commission, the National Electoral Commission, take it to the Secretariat of NRM, and then spread this information to the members. Then you are preparing your people. Like, I can give an example. The youth election starts from the village across the country. What explains the fact that over 90% of the leadership of the youth are actually NRM? It is because the NRM designs that way, when other parties are also designing their political interests
others choose to sit on TVs.
Or they choose to go on TV. How many people watch TVs? But also, we are living at a time when information flow. Recently, when my sister here and the team were on civil disobedience, social media was buzzing with the events. Can we use this same modus operandi to tell our people about what is happening in the country?
Are you dictating how we should share information?
Sorry?
Are you trying to dictate how we should?
We are not. No, I'm only saying. We are discussing why NRM is seemingly ahead of the game, especially in youth leadership. That in NYC youth MPs, you find the majority are NRM. Okay. And I'm saying it is because of the design of the party. How to reach out information, what information, to which people, at what time.
All right, Shamim, yes. So in that regard, then it begs the question, how are you as the youth, subscribing to the National Unity Platform, making sure that the young people can actually come to the forefront of their democratic rights?
Okay, and I'll start from where Honorable stopped, that in multi-party, kind of systems and dispensation, we do have different political parties picking up, information, for example, from the EC. We also received the roadmap from the EC, and we have chosen as the NUP to actually engage in these youth elections. And if you're to take notice that in the previous elections, we weren't actually so engaged into those youth elections, and I do admit to that. But this time around, we decided as the NUP that we are taking part in these processes. We are going to be part of the youth elections. And how are we actually doing it? We have branded our campaign, the national campaign, as a protest vote. And we are saying that the protest vote is going to start with the youth elections. So we decided as the NUP that how do we choose to put our message there? We are going to have a launch. We are going to invite all our youth from different regions to come to the NUP headquarters and be taught about these youth elections. How do you participate in these youth elections? What is required of you? What are the different positions that are available? Give out all this kind of information. And that then brings me to where we are today, that when we called for this launch, because this is how we choose as the NUP to educate our young people, we had a statement from police, and they blocked the event from taking place. So for me, it is having double standards. That why is the NRM being allowed to go out there, choose whatever modus operandi they choose to use to mobilize their youth, but then for the NUP, you want to dictate for us how we should actually mobilize our young people. So for me, I think first and foremost is that the system is being built against those that oppose it.
Okay.
The system is designed to fight the NUP, to fight the FDC, to fight other political
So
parties.
when you say the system, yes, I do understand that NRM has had dominance in youth elections.
Yes.
It begs the question, what do you find as the precise recipe or element in the system that continues to favor NRM scooping these positions?
First and foremost, it is what I've talked about. That the state is ready to come out to stop any further kinds of mobilization that those against them try to do.
Okay, so that is one. That's one. Another one.
That is number one. Secondly, there has been a lot of monetarization of these processes, and I want all of us who are here to admit to that. That you have seen large sums of money being used in these youth elections, and we know that in these elections the state does have the funds. The state has the resources. So when we talk about resources, when we talk about monetarization of these political processes, it is then built against us who come from the opposition.
Okay, all right. As you want to respond to that, she has brought up something, commercialization of politics that has trickled down into youth participation. And Western Uganda is being one of those regions highlighted out Edson as one that is driven by financial incentives to have the electoral process participated in by people across the bar. What is your defense in that? Because that situation continues to escalate every electoral process.
Maybe to, first of all, hint a little bit on what Shamim alleges. One, I'm not so much aware of the facts of the protest vote presser. But what I understand,
you make him aware after here on a cup of tea.
What I can understand is there are stipulated guidelines on how we as citizens should engage. Of course, if you want to organize, even the NRM itself, if we want to organize, for example, a national youth delegates conference, we have to seek for permission first from the police and seek clearance.
Actually, no. Sorry, I want to just correct that. Please. Because a lot of our people are actually being misinformed. Following the Public Order Management Act, it does not require us to seek permission. It actually does state that we inform. We only inform.
Yes, exactly, and that's what that's what I'm saying.
And two, and also in that very act, it does have exceptions that if it is a registered organization, if it is a political party, we are allowed to have such activities at our stipulated places, which are the headquarters, and that's where we are going to have our press conference. So police has no defense for what they do.
And two, I think the police will come and clear for themselves. I don't want to be here and speak for the police, but I understand there should be facts, and I think the police should deserve a chance to be listened to. But on the issue, for example, of commercialization of politics, one thing that Shamim should understand is, by design of the law, the youth MPs and all the other youth structures are elected by means of electoral college. And the electoral college means that you build like a pyramid from somewhere to another level and to another level. Usually what you deem as monetization of politics is the need for logistics to make sure you mobilize different representatives of young people from different corners. For example, it is inevitable that, for example, I'm a youth member of parliament. The last election took place in Mbarara, but I have to be voted by someone who comes from Isoro and someone who comes from Chitandongo. So all these people would require transport, means of transport. And as a candidate, one thing should be interesting for you to learn, Shamim, if you ever try to participate in politics. The mobilization for politics is not just about talking to people. It's about being able to mobilize logistics, mobilizing many stakeholders to understand what your campaign is about, and attracting them to invest in your campaign. So a campaign is not just about going and meeting young people.
So on that element, Edson, what do you then have as your statement as a youth leader against what is being done to the likes of the youth that are subscribing to the opposition parties? Because what you say that they have to mobilize, they have to engage stakeholders. And that is rightly comfortably being acceptable of the NRM. But the opposition young people are facing the wrath of the state in that regard. As they're trying to mobilize, as they're trying to engage the stakeholders, they're being stopped.
Surprisingly, the stakeholders I'm mentioning are not stakeholders in government. No, the people who come to support your campaign should not be
in these electoral processes include government, include
as one element.
Forces,
I can tell you, for example, in my election, there were competitive candidates from other parties, and they had formidable force behind them, and we had to tussle it out. So what I'm saying is, no one should expect that the state will just come and find you there with your campaign and fund you. You must build a campaign based on issues. Mine was based on issues, and many stakeholders, including private players, NGOs, and everyone came on board to support me based on the issues.
The young people.
Priscilla, I just wanted to add something. Our good friend here, Shamim, indicated that police stopped their event at the party headquarters. This country has over 140 districts. You can't use one excuse of one meeting that was stopped to launch the youth protest vote at the headquarters to run away from the fact that you must be present across the country. Like, for example,
are you going to continue? But allow me to, throw this stone in there. The reason as to why the National Unity Platform felt it best to hold this campaign launch at their headquarters was because of what has been happening to the National Unity Platform. As they are traversing the country, they have been continuously halted of their activities by, state agencies.
For example, Priscilla.
Even then, there is no justification for stopping whatever it is, for stopping the launch.
I'm not speaking for police. If police must give accountability for their own reasons. My point here is, like Edson indicated, Honorable Edson, the youth election starts from the village. They are just a number, not the entire village youth in that specific village. They are 9 in a number.
Yes.
Who then progress to the parish.
To the parish, and then
there is no record indicating that our sister political, our sister here in their formation have been stopped. My point is, we shouldn't just bring out excuses. They still have ways, because she indicated earlier that, like other parties, they have presence across the country. Okay. So you use those structures to then come up with a team, to then support the cause. In my election last year, I had one opposition candidate who was actually not a voter, because you must be part of the electoral college. Now, meaning this person did not have clear information on how do you become a voter for them to be part of the youth leadership from the village.
But maybe even another twist.
Okay, you do hold water with your argument there.
No, you see, for me,
I would like you to speak into, because now we're running out of time. I would like you to speak into the elections to come, as people are picking up nomination forms and expressing interest. Again, the issue of commercialization is still there. It's still a bit expensive for these young people to participate in these elections. As one who has continuously participated in them, what would be some of the pieces of advice you would share with those that are expressing interest for the first time, especially?
Okay, just to hint on another thing. For example, Priscilla, it should be by now a public secret that sometimes our sister parties, after organizing the events, they go back doors, try to get some money and induce police officers to act on them to play the victim card.
If you do have evidence of that,
they are allegations.
We would love to have that evidence.
That's actually very funny. Because that is actually very funny. Because
as a strategy,
that is not an argument.
And you say that, so I cannot rule out such cases.
But also, now, even your party has done that. So it is a political trick across the board.
No, and I personally can't justify
that. That's fair enough, right?
Exactly.
If Bernard can accept and he's the NRM, that's good.
Yeah, because it's a gimmick that people use to play. So I am aware because I've been in the political field. Now, on the aspect of commercialization of politics, I have been on record several times, and I thank the Netherlands Institute of Multi-Party Democracy because they have funded our processes over time, bringing young people across the country to advocate on some of these issues. It is true, there are some levels where we reach and say, for example, nomination fees should be the bare minimum for the young people. It should not be that high. But even when you try to legislate, there are some things that you can't stop. For example, you can't stop, you can't say transport should be free of charge. You need to transport delegates to the final voting place.
Refreshment.
Yes, you cannot transport someone and fail to buy them drinking water. It's a must. So what should be my call to action to the young people? One is to appreciate that a campaign is driven by resources. Any campaign is driven by resources, and mobilization is not just talking and inciting.
Okay, let's put a quantity to this. Yes. How much money should one who's interested in participating for the first time? How much should they have in their account to just get head started?
Of course, for example, I come from a region which has a minimum of 38 districts. When you add municipalities which are also voting entities, you make them 42. So you need to traverse these people because it is an electoral college. The voting is entirely based on person-to-person relationship sometimes, and sometimes, of course, it's about how you've branded yourself as a candidate. So you will find yourself in need of means to traverse the entire 42 voting administrative units. That means you will require some good number of liters of fuel to reach them. And then you will need to sit with the young people and buy them some drinking water. So when you total that up, and it's a process that may take you to at least 3 months or 2, you will find yourself in need of some 200 or 300 million to invest in moving around. And these are things you can from. That's why I'm saying the campaign must be an issue.
How were you able to mobilize those resources?
300 million.
So number one, I have to tell you, if you want me to spill the secrets to you, reach out to young people or to people who are interested in youth work. And there are so many in this country. Individuals, others under entities that over time, even when we sit here as NTV and we are discussing youth issues, there must be someone who pays you somewhere to provide this avenue. There are people who are interested in what your agenda is. So you must be keen enough to understand who is that person. What are my issues that they are interested in, and make them your issues on the agenda, and definitely they will come in and support you.
All right, thank you.
Devoid of that,
Shamim, your protest vote campaign, you say was intended to provide civic education registration so that the youth can participate in the upcoming youth elections. That was curtailed by the events that happened on Monday. Does it stop you from extending civic education even without the campaign? With or without campaign, civic education is the backbone of youth participation if we want to see the democracy that we want to see, a better Uganda. And so without the campaign, does that mean that you've stopped working and providing the civic education?
No, actually we haven't stopped, and that was not just one of the activities that we're doing. It was not like the main activity. It is just one of those that, you know, we looked at to launch. So when someone says it's a launch, a launch means that we are starting
the launch
something.
Is done and dusted.
Now the launch is done and dusted. So we are now actually going ahead. Personally, I've been handling Kawempe South because I'm the secretary in our youth council. I do have, you know, registers of young people who are interested in participating in these youth elections under the National Unity Platform. We have been having meetings with these young people right from the village level. While these may not be things that we come out and state, you know, for people to know and put it out there, these are things that we continue to do on a daily basis. So we are organizing, we are strategizing, and we are mobilizing.
All right, and finally, Bernard, as I want you to give us a call to action to the young people now, those that we should be engaging in this electoral process, and also what are some of the recommendations to the Electoral Commission to make it easier and more appealing for the young people to participate, especially in something that you mentioned earlier, the displays that are going on for the register right now?
Thank you so much, Priscilla. My call to the general public, the electoral process is now out. The majority of the voters are actually youth. We have no excuse. With or without money, all you need is actually to speak about your interest. When we converge as young people together, the issue of money can be sorted. We've seen in elections ministers losing in this country. We've seen in elections where powerful people lose with a lot of money. So whereas money is an issue, but money in itself is not the end to electoral process. What we need is to prepare our people. Forget about the differences, go for the cause. But how do you explain the money, billions of money, the Electoral Commission gives to parties? NRM receives money, NUP receives money. It's the second biggest opposition party or party in parliament in this country. So the issue of money is everywhere. Can they also account, can they use that money to support their young people to come into the electoral process? So for me the call is our young people, pick up the pace, be counted, go and check for your names, be read as a candidate, but also be read as a voter. This country is ours, and it is us who have longer time here. Let's work together and make this country good for us.
For God and my country, and on behalf of the young people on the table this morning, thank you so much for having tuned into this discussion on Morning at NTV. We say adios, have a good day.